Psalm 7. If you're the president or prime minister, they are going to do everything they can to undermine you. If you're the boss, they're going to gossip about you, flatter you, or slander you. If you're a leader of any kind, you're going to get more than your share of the blame. In fact, if you're human at all, you know the sting of unjust criticism. Psalm 7 is a call for justice in the light of fierce personal attack. The poet has been betrayed, and his foes are out for blood. Maybe you've never had a knife at your throat, but you've probably experienced cutting comments and harsh criticism. If so, this psalm is for you. It teaches us two things. First, don't pour fuel on the fire by lashing back at your critics. Instead, take your complaint to God. This psalm expresses our deep human desire for justice, to be vindicated when we've been maligned or humiliated. Secondly, it shows us the wisdom of moral honesty. Instead of a defensive posture, the poet says, if there's even the remotest chance that I have caused this hostility, let me suffer the consequences. I should get what I deserve. And this may simply be a graphic way of pleading his innocence, but even if it is, he makes an important point. If you want a universe where nasty people get what they deserve, keep an open conscience to make sure that you are not a perpetrator. But our poet is absolutely convinced that he is wrongly accused, and he's frustrated that God has not acted to vindicate him and set the record straight. He calls out to God, God, get up, wake up, do something, pronounce the verdict. Why do you allow liars and bullies to get away with it all? How can you be a righteous judge when you allow vice and injustice to go unpunished? I love the way the Psalms encourage us to argue with God, to call God out, not arrogantly, but with straight talking honesty. God never assumes a posture of being above criticism. This is a sign of true faith, the confidence that we can engage God as a moral agent, not just bow submissively at his feet. So the poet asks God to vindicate him, and then he zooms out and asks for a wider victory of right over wrong. God, it's time to wipe out evil and clean up this mess, defend the innocent, and expose those who foul your world. He warns us that the cosmic judge, God, searches hearts and minds, that every attitude and motive is unmasked before God. We have nowhere to hide. He waxes poetic about God's fury against sin and how God is sharpening his sword to wipe out evil everywhere. Except that doesn't very often happen. More often, offenders seem to get away with murder. Then the psalm makes two interesting observations about evil. First, evil is a very fertile process, as fertile as sperm and ova. When selfish desires find a womb in our hearts, we easily conceive of some way to carry them out, giving birth to vanity or deceit or malicious actions or cowardice. We're all susceptible to this process. It happens almost spontaneously. No longer is the poet looking at evil out there. It's all too easily and too often in here. But evil is not only fertile, it is also futile. Sin is never life-giving. It always backfires on us. It is a dead-end street. Perhaps that is why God is so extraordinarily patient, waiting for us to discover the futility of our own self-serving ways. So, if you are facing excessive criticism or feeling bullied unjustly, let me encourage you to take your complaint to God. Express your frustration and ask God to defend your cause. Remember the example of Jesus, who, when he was insulted and accused, did not retaliate or lash back, but entrusted himself to God who judges justly. Perhaps that is why this psalm, that begins with such a painful cry for help, wraps up with such confidence and hopeful joy, even though the singer's problems have not been resolved. The world may continue to be out of sync with God, but the singer says, I will give thanks to the Lord because of his righteousness. I will sing the praises of the Lord Most High. Take care.